Now we're going to talk about the compressor, the next section over on the Studio Live Fat channel. It's the same on all the boards. The order of these buttons is different on the 1642 board, but the controls are all the same. Well, the essential control here is the threshold control. So let's just dial it in on a vocal, and I'm going to hold down tap and turn these knobs with the threshold all the way up. That means the compressor doesn't do anything. And what a compressor does is anything that goes over what you have set on the threshold gets turned down. How much it's turned down is set on the ratio control, meaning here it's 2 to 1, meaning if we're 2 dB over the threshold, the compressor lets 1 dB go through. Basically, it turns it down to where it's 1 dB over. If we go up to 3 to 1, that would be typically considered harder compression. When you are 3 dB over, you only let 1 dB out. And then these are milder compression ratios down here. But typically for vocals, I would set the compressor right in here. We'll leave attack, release, and gain reduction on the default settings. We'll also leave soft and auto turned off. And I'll explain those in a few minutes after we discuss the attack and release. So first of all, we're going to dial in compression here, and you should see gain reduction here. So the metering here shows how much we're turning it down. And so that's really kind of our guide besides listening to it. This is kind of our guide. So we're going to do this on the lead vocal. We've got it turned up right here. Let's play back.
Don't hold my hand and know that I stand right by your side in all these good and bad times. Oh, I'm done running.
Okay, right there you saw in the word bad, the vocal got kind of really loud. And so we can tell there's quite a bit of variability. In that situation, I might turn the ratio up a little bit more so we have it a little bit more under control. But anyway, we've dialed in the basic threshold. We see that we've got gain reduction going here. And really at that point, we could be done. Now, typically, when you take 3 dB out, then you'd add it back in down here. Add a couple dB back in down here. So let's listen to the lead vocal.
I think it's time to call this place home. Don't hold my hand and know that I stand.
So that's a pretty good setting. During the quieter parts, we're just barely flickering on the gain reduction. We're not really clamping down on the signal. And on a lead vocal, you want to leave it pretty natural. Now, the setting called attack means how quickly are we going to turn it down. So it actually takes the compressor a little while, and 20 milliseconds is in music time, a fairly long amount of time. But if we get up into this range, it actually takes a significant amount of time before it actually turns it down. Now, if you have a ballad or something like that, you can get really good effect by turning the attack time quite long, like maybe 100, and then turning this way down to 12. So a long attack combined with a short release. It's very flattering to vocals, particularly for ballads. It also works well if you've got something like a piano and you want to just give it a little more fullness. It's along the lines of what you would get with an old LA2A style compressor. So let's just listen to it set up that way.
Right by your side in all these good and bad times. Oh, I'm done running. I think it's time to call this place home.
So that's a little trick. Now, one of the ways to remember this setting is that looking at the default setting where it's 20 and 150 as kind of the starting point. If we hold down tap, this is what we're going to get. This is the default also if we zero the board. That's a good starting point. But if you start to look at reversing those two numbers and go up to 120 or 125 and put this down to 12, you've got kind of an alternative thing to try on some of your other instruments. So these you have to play with. Sometimes it's not that audible what it's doing. If you don't know what to set it at, then just put these in the middle and you'll be in pretty good shape for vocals. Another way to handle this is to hit the auto button. The auto button essentially puts this at 150 and 10. So that's the default with the auto button in. And that's kind of the, I don't want to think about attack and release mode. That will work in general for compression. And so if you're going to set it up this way, then let's turn it back on.
Don't hold my hand and know that I stand.
And that gives you kind of a good starting point for compression. Now, we've taken a look at that. Compression works really well this way. It also works very well on background vocals because you're not going to ride your background vocals nearly as much as your lead vocals. So let's just quickly set up compression for the background vocals using this auto mode. So on background vocal 1 and 2, I'm just going to play them back and set up some compression. Let's take a look at background vocal 1.
Ooh, I'm done running.
Now for the background vocals, I'm actually going to compress them a little harder because I don't mind that. I also don't mind the default auto attack mode, so we'll just go with that.
Na 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 na. I need you to hold my hand, baby, hold my hand. I need you to hold my hand, baby, hold my hand. Hiding all these good and bad times. Oh, I'm done running.
Yeah, there's some crazy tape noise in the background vocals. This is pre-recorded. This is not from a live show. But I could control that by also enabling the gate on these channels, I think.
Think it's time to call this place home. Na 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 na. Don't hold my hand, and know that I stand right by your side in all these good and bad times. Oh, I'm done running. I think it's time to call this place home.
Now, it sounds a lot more finished. The mix sounds a lot more finished. We haven't even done any EQ yet. All we've done is add a little compression to the lead vocals. So I want to show you something related to tuning the compressor to the tempo of the song. So we'll use the overhead mics for this. The overheads, we have the bass rolled off. So I'm going to turn that back on. I'm going to zero out the compressor again here by twisting all of these. And I'm going to just play it back, dial in a basic sound, and then I'll explain what I did. All right, so what I've done here is we've added extreme compression, so I turned the threshold way down to really dig into the sound. I set it at 14:1 because in this particular case, I really want to control these, which is what I might commonly do on overheads. And then here on the attack time, I sped up the attack time so that it's actually kicking in really quickly. And so with drums, you know, the drum hit doesn't even last very long. So if you have this out too much, the transient's completely gone before the compressor kicks in. And then the release time, I actually made it kind of slow so that it actually pumps out and it adds some energy. This is a pretty common technique. You tune this to the tempo of the song. If you actually looked at the length of a quarter note, you would find that it's kind of going to be in these higher ranges up here. So you could sort of tune that by ear. You can watch the gain reduction kind of pumping over here, and it gives you that kind of interesting sound. Now when you do this, you get deep gain reduction. Sometimes you also kind of lose the transients, and that's where the soft knee can come in. If you enable the soft knee, the onset of the ratio is smoothed out a little bit. So when you're close to the threshold, it actually softens it up again a little bit. Now, it doesn't lead to a soft sound. It actually leads to bringing the transients back a little bit so you hear the definition of the hits better. That's a common misconception of what the soft control is all about. I would usually not use this on vocals, but I do use it on drums, especially when you tune it with pretty aggressive settings. So let me play that back again. I'm going to go ahead and roll off the bass a little bit again. We'll bring the rest of the mix back of the things we've been working on, and then we'll wrap this up.
it's time to call this place home. Na 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 na. So hold my hand, baby, hold my hand, and know that I stand, baby, hold my hand, right by your side in all these good and bad times. Oh, I'm done running. I think it's time to call this place home. Na 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 na.
So that's a compressor on the Studio Live AI board. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.